Hello, hope you're well. My name is Robi Koki Ochieng. I'm a lecturer of journalism and communication at the United States International University, Africa, in the School of Communication, Cinematics, and Creative Arts. My presentation today is based on a study that looked at the exploration of gender-based violence in print media articles or stories of prominent women in media in Kenya today. The aim of the study was to be able to establish the triggers, nature, and types of online violence against women journalists in Kenya, and specifically to explore the global, regional, and local issues related to online violence, cyber attacks, and bullying. The literature behind the study was more or less to establish that there is a correlation between violence offline and online. And of course, this basically is the fact that tactics or bullying tactics that are used offline are transferred to online spaces. The aim of bullying or the aim of violating one's rights online or offline are basically aimed at intimidating the person on the other end, with the aim, in this case, to radio silence them if they were women. And this means you scare them, you silence them, and you denigrate them so that they cannot speak out. And secondly, it is aimed at keeping women out of public life, which is referred to as soft chilling effects. And this then aims at preventing women to participate actively in public life. Of course, under the guise of misogyny, which is the hatred of women that has been perpetuated over centuries. So women who have a public voice or have a voice in public spaces are likely to face this. The idea behind Why the Journalist was brought about by a study by The Guardian, where 70 million comments on their website between 2012 and 2016 indicated that 8 out of 10 journalists received or were victims of online violence, where men received online harassment, women were recipients of insults, negative comments, bullying, threats, and incivility in general. The objective of this study was to establish the kind of online violence against women journalists, that have been covered by online print media stories, both from alternative and mainstream media. And of course, then to determine the nature, prominence, and tone of this media reporting, and therefore to recommend what needs to go on in terms of safeguarding or enhancing data safety of these top women in journalists. The research design was qualitative in nature, quantitative with the use of content analysis, specifically narrative analysis. The idea was to opinion mine through the collection of stories on the selected journalists and putting them into one document, which was then fed into the NVivo platform, the NVivo software, which is a qualitative statistical tool that would then give an analysis of the nature and types or triggers of online violence facing these top women journalists. The second thing that was that becomes important is the sample. The sample is derived from 3 major websites that give updates on top journalists in the country, either male or female, and this then enabled me to carry out the study with 17 women in place. Now, this study, just before I go into the conclusion, was commissioned by the Association of Women in Media of of Media Women in Kenya, Article 19, and Dr. Svela in 2016 to be able to enhance the discussion about data safety in Africa. Now, out of, in this study, 17 top women journalists were selected. Articles about them, of course, were fed into En Vivo, and the following conclusions emerged as to be the key reasons why our top journalists faced online violence. One of the first things that emerged is that many top women journalists were trolled because of their appearance. Just because they were in public space, the public felt that they had a say on how they should appear. In fact, women journalists or anchors in this, for this matter, are deemed as sexual objects. They are there to give sexualized news, and words such as sagging breast, perky breast, vixens, and sirens were used to describe what they do in the media houses, to describe their voices, and to give femininity to what they are supposed to do in the media house. In the process, the expectation of what a journalist should do in the media house as a woman was reduced to just being a beauty kind of a person, talking about entertainment news and never interrogating things that are of important value to the public today. The other thing that was apparent is that whenever these top women journalists gave, a public voice to an issue they thought was of concern to them, they faced a lot of online violence in terms of radio silencing them, because it was seen as if they give an opinion, they are deflating the position of the male in society. They would then be scorned for their marital status, especially if they were not married. They would even be body shamed if they do not fit the frame of what is called screen fit, and they would be publicly shamed, where trollers would talk about what they say, bring up their personal lives or characteristics that they thought would fit within that forum. The third thing that appeared to emerge from the finding was the fact that by them giving them their personal opinion, they need to recognize that it is a favor for them to be in the media, and secondly, that they probably do not have the professional prowess that the male journalists have in the media spaces. Another finding indicated that the blur between their personal and professional life online was a source of online public ridicule. The fact that they shared personal information on public spaces or social media spaces would be used, therefore, to permeate violence on them, to the extent that their professional life has a very minimal digital footprint online. And should they demonstrate any public displays of affection or flirting through what they posted personally, then they were likely to face violation. The other thing that led to online violation of these women online would be if they joined a controversial organization or a religious body, or they got involved in relationships with persons who are either controversial or who are, not politically correct, or who don't cut out the image of a proper man, then they were likely to face ridicule, public ridicule online because of the choices that they were making. Another aspect that led to online violence includes the display of having a financial acumen, being financially stable, being able to provide for themselves things that are considered status symbols, such as cars, fashion items, or houses. There is always a question from the online violators as to who were the powerful men behind what they own, And if there was any rumored affiliation with, let's say, politicians, then the success of this journalist would be attributed to that particular man. So some of the recommendations that emerged is that women in the media need to strive to have sensitization programs for women across the board in media, especially for the young ones. It was recommended that they need to be able to know what they need to share in terms of their public life, what they need to keep private, and how to enhance their professional life or their professional digital footprint online, and kind of make their personal life more private, or make efforts to make sure that their personal life is more private. In this way, then they will have a more prominent professional presence online. And that leads to the idea of professional branding, beginning to understand that as a journalist, you need to tell stories, you need to tell them well, you need to do your work, and you need to get into those genres that are considered no-go zones for women, so that you can be able to have a professional presence. The other thing that was recommended is the coming up of mentorship programs, where these women identified would be then picked up as social influencers to mentor women, not just in the media, but women in general, so that they can be able to understand or highlight narratives that reflect on professionalism, that reflect on women empowerment, that reflect on entrepreneurship and successful social status in life, so that it doesn't look like as if women cannot be successful unless they have men besides them. Just by way of information, a follow-up study has been done where a focus group discussion with some of these top women journalists is being undertaken to more or less validate what has been found, and a further study on prominent women and professional women, that is politicians, artists, activists, and government officers, and those in the judicial, is being undertaken, so that we can be able to compare the findings. Thank you for listening, and have a lovely day.